Hi, this is Denise Mathew, and today I'm going to make this wire and bead ring. This design was inspired by a bracelet design, and I started to make the bracelet, but I didn't like it because I found it too chunky, so I thought I'd try a ring out. Then I was going to have it as an adjustable ring and not really close it, but then that didn't look right either. But hopefully the video will come together so you'll get the gist of how to make the ring. So let's get started. I'm working with 3/4 foot of 18 gauge wire, but you could go down to a 16 if you prefer. I'm using my multi-size looping pliers, but you could use regular round nose pliers if you want, and you just have to mark it with a marker so you can keep the circles consistent. So I just made one loop and I just kind of overlapped it a little tiny bit. That's going to be the beginning of the ring. And since we're going to be putting beads in the little circles, it's important to check the size of the bead against the circle to make sure it'll fit inside. Actually, what we're making is a figure 8 design. So you're just going to go right below the loop and you're going to turn the loop in the opposite direction of the loop that you just made. And then it forms a figure 8. Now you're going to make the top loop of the figure 8 and just wrap your wire right around the pliers again. And take your time so that you want to make the loops as uniform as possible. Then you're going to form the bottom loop and just wrap the wire around the same way as you did before. And then you'll have another figure 8. Then you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to form the top loop first and then the bottom loop again. And you want your loops close together, but you don't want them overlapping. And try again, as I said, to make them uniform. Sometimes that gets to be difficult, but the more times you do it, the easier it gets. Then you're going to form the bottom loop like you did before, and you're going to continue with this pattern until you have as long as you need for the ring. And the way to measure how much you'll need is by taking a string and wrapping it around the ring mandrel if you have it, and you're going to go up one size, then the size that you need. And if you're doing it just on your finger, you can put it around your finger and then just try and make it a little bit bigger. So for instance, for a size 7 ring, I used 2.5 inches of loops. Once you have the length you need, then you're just going to make another loop right on the end and just overlap it like you did on the first and trim back any excess wire. You can take your chain nose pliers and you can start to flatten out the loops, because once they're wired with the beads, it's really hard to do much with them then. So before you add the beads, you want to have your wire nice and flat and as straight as you can make it. And if any loops don't look like you want them to, you can always use your pliers to make them a little bit rounder again. But don't pull too much because you can pull the loops out of shape completely. I'm working with a 26 gauge wire. You could go up to a 24. It's really whatever fits your beads. And I'm also working with 2mm acrylic pearls. So you're just going to attach the wire to the end loop and do about 3 wraps. It's basically just to secure your wire on your loops. So once the wire is secured to the loop, then you're just going to string on whatever bead you're using. Like I said, I'm using a 2mm acrylic pearl. You're going to fit it right in that loop that you made, and then stretch the wire right over and connect the 2 loops side by side. So you're going to do about 2 loops to connect those two wires together. Then you're going to pick up another pearl and you're going to do the exact same thing. And you're going to do that right across to the other side. So 2 wraps to connect the 2 loops, and then you're going to pick up another pearl. So I'll finish to the other side and then I'll come back. You get to the other side, you're just going to do 2 wraps, 1 or 2 wraps just around the last loop, and that's basically just to secure your pearl, and then leave that tail behind. And then you're going to start to do the exact same thing on the other side. So if you notice, I have all crystals on the other side and I've left a tail as well. So I'm just going to do the 2 wraps at the end. My tails are a little bit on the long side. You really only need about 3/4 to an inch of wire left over. So now you're going to start to form the ring. And because it's been wired over the heavier wire, you're going to have to do it in little parts. So if you notice, I'm just starting to form it in little bits. And I notice that it works better when you hand form it as opposed to using a ring mandrel. The idea is to bring the ends close together, and what you're going to do is take those long wires that are left over and just do a couple wraps on the other side loop, and that will connect your ring. You want to pull the 2 ends of the ring together, but you don't want to pull too tight because it can take the ring out of shape, so just pull it just so it's touching, and then you can start doing your wraps. Generally about 3 or 4 wraps will do it, but if you want to do more, that's really up to you. And you're going to do that on both sides of the ring to secure it. Then you can trim off the excess wire and tuck in any sharp edges. Then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. After it's all secured, if you have a ring mandrel or a dowel, you can put the ring on that and you can shape it so it makes a better circle. So that's all there is to it. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming. Bye for now.